guys, welcome to our last and final unit, which is mammals. So we have taken a look at the entire tree of life and we finally have arrived to our final destination. Mammals are vary in size, although they are some of the largest organisms on Earth. You notice here different comparisons. The largest animal in the world is the blue whale, is 98 feet long. What is so remarkable about the blue whale is that it achieves this size and magnitude by eating some of the smallest organisms. They filter feed fish. Okay, so a few characteristics about mammals. The first one is mammals have an amniotic egg, and as you can see, it has a lot of the other characteristics that we saw in amniotic eggs before. Here's the chorion, the amnion, the embryo, the yolk sac. The only difference is that this time this egg is found inside the mother. They also have skin covering. Skin covering is hair, and that's very unique in mammals. This hair is used for different functions. One of the functions that is used for is insulation. Insulation allows the animal to maintain its a constant or a cool body temperature if it's hot, or a warm temperature if it's cold. Camouflaging, it also benefits in sensory. So if you can see the whiskers allow for the organism to sense and feel around. It also allows for waterproofing. So in this case of the otter, where it goes swimming, it basically keeps it dry. It allows for communication. When you see these organisms here, like this cat, you understand that the cat is angry or afraid. And it also can be utilized for defense mechanisms. Another characteristic that mammals have are mammary glands. Mammary glands are the glands that provide that females have, the mothers have, to provide nutrition to their young, and usually it's in the form of milk. And here is a calf drinking milk from the mom's mammary glands. Another characteristic about mammals is that they are endothermic. They must do things like sweating, panting, and shivering to maintain internal body temperature, excuse me, to support the high metabolism for all the movements that they do. So if you think about mammals, they do a lot of activity, and this activity will cause them to sweat or to display some panting, and those responses allows the organism to be able to still cool down and still continue to do those activities. Hunting is another thing that mammals are very commonly doing to gather food, except for humans. Another characteristic is that they have a very varied digestive system. And as you can imagine, this system varies based on the organ size. And the reason is that different organisms will have different diets, and those diets will determine how the digestive tract should be developed. For example, here we have an herbivore, and you notice that the herbivore has a very, very, very long intestinal tract and a very large cecum and a very large colon. And the reason is because plants take quite a bit of digestive power to process. So you have to have this really long system so that the organism is able to process all the food. Omnivores have a shorter tract than herbivores. And if you can imagine, meat eaters is even smaller because it's easier to break down the proteins in the meat and break down the meat into things that they need. Another characteristic that they have is the different types of teeth are vary depending on the organism's food source. So notice here we have 3 different types of teeth. We have the molars that are large surface and strong. You have the incisors, which are the teeth that are found, the smaller teeth that are found up front. And then you have the canines, which are these large, long teeth. Notice that carnivores have a lot more canines than we do, or other organisms. Omnivores only have molars because it allows them to break things down that need a lot of the mechanical force, like the plants, as we said. Plants have to have a lot of these in order to break them down because they're difficult to break down. Another characteristic that you will find is that humans have a new way of breathing. So we have seen organisms that have lungs, and tracheal tubes, that's not new. What is new is this new system here called the diaphragm. The diaphragm works by moving up and down, as you notice. So when you take in oxygen or air, the diaphragm drops. That causes negative pressure, and it causes the air to come in. And when you are breathing out, the diaphragm pulls in, causing positive pressure, releasing the carbon dioxide out. So we're going to see a demonstration of how this works. So here we have a demonstration. Notice the diaphragm moving down, and the windpipes bring the air in, and then as it pushes up, the windpipes push the air out. Another thing about mammals, as you can imagine, mammals are the most complex organism. I think at this point you probably already know that. So another thing about mammals is that they have a very, very complex circulatory system that allows the heart to carry oxygen through a very, very complex system of veins and arteries throughout the entire body. And that requires us to have a 4-chamber heart. Remember that the 4-chamber heart is what has the most effective absorption of oxygen that gets transmitted to the rest of the body. Another characteristics that mammals have is that they have the most largest and most developed brain, and it's very complex. So notice here that mammals have a very large forebrain. The forebrain, and monkeys too, see? The forebrain is in charge of memory, being able to learn tasks, reasoning, emotions. So all those activities that we would describe ourselves as humans, and that with some primates and monkeys, we have similarities. Notice that our forebrains are closer similarly than the other organisms. We have 86 billion neurons in our brain that determine all these activities. Neurons are the functional cells in the brain that allow us to do all the activities that we do. We also have the cerebellum, which is very large here, and the cerebellum is in charge of balance and coordinating movements. All right, so there are 3 different categories of mammals, and these categories are defined by how they reproduce. And so remember that we said that in the original slide earlier that mammals actually have the baby is inside the mom. Well, that there's actually a subcategory of mammal that is not true, and those are called the monotremes. There are only two types of monotremes. They're still considered mammals because they have every other quality except this. So there are two types of monotremes in the entire world. The first one is called the platypus, it's right here, and the second one is called the echidnas. This is the echidnas, and they basically just lay eggs, but they're mammals. The next one is the marsupials, which is also a smaller population, but not as small. Marsupials are basically mostly all in Australia, can be found in Australia, and I think there is only one in North America, which is the opossum. And marsupials are unique in that they have a very short gestation period. Gestation period is the period that the baby spends inside the mom developing. For example, for humans, we have a 9-month gestation period, meaning that the baby stays inside the mom for 9 months. And most mammals stay a very long time, but marsupials do not. Marsupials stay a very short time, and then they come out, they go inside the pouch, and they continue to develop in the pouch. So they're not ready to come out after a short time. They're actually going to continue development. If they were to come out and not go into the pouch, they will die. This is an example of a kangaroo before it's going into the mom's pouch. So notice how this could never survive. This will become this baby right here. Inside the pouch, it will continue to develop. And the last one is called the placentals. The placentals, like you and I and other humans, have a very long gestation period, meaning they will stay inside the mom for a very long time, and they have a placenta. A placenta is the organ that allows the baby to give nutrients, oxygen, and all the and collect wastes through the umbilical cord in and out. So this is an example of what the placenta would look like. So when the baby gets delivered, the placenta also gets delivered. We placentals also have a complex social behavior, meaning they're the most advanced in terms of their behavior compared to other organisms out there. Okay, that wraps it up. Congratulations, you just completed our science